Welcome, everyone, to Uplifting Humans, where we honor, empower, educate, and inspire the listener. I'm Cylindrin Buller, your host. And of course, as everyone has tuned in for the number of sessions we've had before in Fires of Relationships, joining me today is Matilda, my co-host. But before we get Matilda to introduce herself, the topic today in Fires of Relationships is acceptance. Acceptance is a state where we feel nothing needs to be changed. Everything's okay. Everything is perfect and beautiful the way it is. So we are in a state of flow. Today, we'll be discussing acceptance and everything that comes in our life and how we actually do accept it and how that feels and how it affects our relationships. Matilda?
Hello, everyone. This is Matilda Tavanian, host of Coffee with Matilda. I'm very excited today, Salindran, because actually one of the main things that I wanted to talk about today with our audience is self-acceptance and how important this is for our life and all our journey in life. So yeah, let's start.
Yeah, so, because of major changes and how we perceive those changes affects us and it affects our relationship to everything else that is going on around us, including our relationships, not just with ourselves, but everyone. What happens is that, you end up becoming very, very aware of what is happening, how you're responding rather than reacting, and how you're accepting of what is actually happening. So it's a real interesting journey, coming to a place of acceptance with anything in your life. I guess the acceptance part of it that a lot of people have issues with is when they're faced with certain challenges that actually change and challenge their belief systems, what their rights and what their wrongs were. In their mind, everyone has the picture perfect way of living, of doing things, of what is right, of what is wrong, of what is their belief systems. And whenever that is challenged in some way or form, unless you've come to a state of acceptance, it's going to be a very, very tough challenge and struggle to get through. And so, when we're in a state of acceptance, it's completely different. But getting to acceptance is really what this, I think, talk is about. If you look at what is happening out there right now, getting back to, I'm one of these people, Matilda, that I'm very used to traveling.
Mhm.
I mean, I would travel at least 3 or 4 times a year, and at least 2 of those trips were not trips of necessity. They were actually really, really rest and relaxation, going to a nice sunny destination.
I like that.
Yeah, because in Canada, we're limited with the sun, right?
Mhm.
And as much as I live on the West Coast in beautiful Vancouver, BC, we get the most sun, but it's still, the fall and the winter is very, very difficult because we have weather patterns which are really, torrential rains and dark, dark, dark surroundings. And it becomes very, very depressing. So of course, you know, um, and being in the state that we are right now, I've had to really come to terms with accepting the fact that I'm not able to go and travel the way that I have been accustomed to. And so, for me, that was a little bit of a challenge. And I really had to go through a process to get to the point of acceptance and acceptance of the way that life is right now.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've had a similar situation that's probably come up for you, because I know you love to go for a nice glass of wine and a nice meal. And I'm sure you were probably put in the very same challenge as I was, because you weren't permitted to do that, right?
Yes, exactly.
And how did you come to the point of acceptance? Was it something that you had no choice and I go ahead and I swallow this, you know, new law that has been passed that, you know, for X number of days, we're not going to be permitted to go and have our wine and nice meals somewhere? I mean, how did you come to the point of acceptance?
Well, I felt like, oh, this is exciting. To be honest, that's what I was thinking. Oh, this is exciting. This has never happened in the world. And
Yes.
I'm experiencing it. How amazing is that? What an honor it is that I'm living at a time that I'm experiencing as a human being. Whereas people after me or before me, that they lived and died, they never gonna experience it. So I looked at it that way. But overall, how I don't think I had that kind of attitude towards life. This attitude has been recently that and I don't know, maybe it's a selfish point of view, I don't know. I feel like universe really loves me and will never put me in a position that's gonna harm me. So whatever is coming, whatever is happening to me, it's it's happening because it's supposed to happen, and it's happening because the universe knows that I have the tools within me to overcome that situation. So somehow I have a trust. I've trusting universe that is delivering the best that it can for me.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm in a la
So,
la land, but that's how I'm operating my life.
so that is how you came to the term of acceptance. You came to that, you know, reality of not being able to live the life that you typically normally would have been accustomed to, and accepting what is. So, you know, you went ahead and you dug deep and you went through to source is going to take care of me, everything's going to be okay, and maybe this
Yes.
is the best thing for me. um, and which is great, but you see, there's a process that you get to go through before you come to the point of acceptance. And, you know, the flip side to acceptance, I think, is to explore that again at a very personal level. What are some of the things that you haven't been able to accept? For a lot of people, not being able to accept certain things because they're so set in their ways is a huge challenge and struggle. It's actually hindering their growth. If you think about it, if I do not accept another human being, for instance, and their action and their belief systems, which are totally different than mine, okay, then I'm not at a point to accept what is. I'm not able to accept the wholeness of what the reality is. And I think the challenge and the struggle for a lot of people comes from maybe forgiveness. You know, in
Mm-hmm.
order to come to a point of acceptance, there's a level of forgiveness. There's a level of being able to overlook certain things. Be it your best friend, you know, we love our friends dearly, but when we're at a point of acceptance, instead of being critical of them, what we do is we overlook some of their limitations. You know, think about all your good friends, think about your relationships out there and how many uh, people that you're surrounded by. And you know, there's certain things and certain limitations that really irritate you and irk you, and you're like, why does this person do this all the time? How can this person do this all the time? Time and time again, I've done this, that, the other thing, I've said this, that, and the other thing, and still they think that I'm going to be cheated, lied to, or being, you know, being so conniving and underhanded. And yet, having come to the point of acceptance, I say, yes, yes, that individual talks behind my back. Yes, that individual cheats and lies. Yes, that person does this, that, and the other thing. But that too is a part of what I'm supposed to be accepting. You see?
Yeah, and also maybe maybe look at it this way. This person is even cheating, or I don't know, saying bad things behind you. Maybe it's a blessing in a way, if you look at the situation in a way, in this way, that okay, I have to learn about my boundaries. This person is teaching about my boundaries. Maybe something I've done wrong, or first of all, I don't believe that people cheat on you. I think you cheat on yourself. You cheat on your values and principles. Or if someone does bad thing to you, I think maybe because you haven't put things at the right place from the beginning. um, I don't know. I like to accept. This is again a recent attitude of mine, that I love people. I love people from wherever they're coming and however they're coming, and I'm trying to accept the way they are instead of changing them. Before, I wanted to change them the way that I wanted them to be. But
Mhm.
now I'm like, okay, the way that they are, there's a blessing in it, there's a lesson in it. So maybe if I start being very busy by trying to mold them the way that I want them to be, maybe I should listen to what they're teaching me. Maybe I have to be present to their present and understand what this gift is, and learn from it. um, Actually, I've learned a lot of things from people who've done very bad things to me, and when I'm looking back, sometimes I feel like, thank you for doing that, because I've learned different steps in my life that now I'm using it.
But that's hindsight.
Yeah.
That after you've come to the point of acceptance, right? And
Yeah.
so here's another example. Another example is the world. The world was horrified, in shock, with a police officer with his knee on someone's neck. We
Yes.
saw some officer who was supposed to be a peace officer who could have handled things differently. On the world stage, everyone was affected.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was, every single person, from government officials to the people that are unfortunately living on the streets, everyone was affected.
Yes.
I didn't know him, you didn't know him. But guess what? We had to come to a point of acceptance. We had to come to a point of acceptance. Acceptance is beyond reasoning with it sometimes, because how could you reason with an officer who has all of a sudden killed someone without any just reason and in broad daylight with people surrounding him? And the world had to come to a point of acceptance. And the acceptance allowed, once the acceptance was there, because initially there was no acceptance, there were
Mhm.
riots,
Yeah.
outcries, there were rallies all over the world. That was because we refused to understand and say, hey, it's okay. No, it's not okay. We're going to accept what has been, presented
Happened.
to us. However, we will not agree with this. And
Mm-hmm.
once the acceptance part of it came, all of a sudden it became more of how can we move forward? How
Exactly.
can we make this so it never happens again?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at all those police officers, when you look at all those firemen who who basically had rioters, there were rioters protecting police officers from other rioters. I mean, you saw that,
Yeah.
right? And what we have to look at is the underlying beauty of that moment, which is people are trying to do their very best, and their very best could be something we cannot accept. And yet we have to accept it. And yet we have to learn how to move forward from that place. And how you move forward from that place is that we come to a state of understanding what has taken place, but through love.
Yeah.
Through
Through
love.
compassion and
Through
love.
love. Because if it came from a place of anger and fear, there would be more killings, more
Yes.
rioting, because we never got to the acceptance part of it. So, you know, and it's such a beautiful part of the process of growth, because like we've discussed all of the other emotions, acceptance is a part of the process, because it really is getting through the anger, the guilt, the fear, the all those layers and layers and layers. And the beauty of acceptance is you're so close to that next emotion, which is love, that it takes a little bit of love to get you through and bring you to acceptance.
And that's where you can grow. Otherwise, you're going to stay in a very negative stage.
And it only comes from within. It's not like someone tells you, hey, you're going to have to accept this. The old, you don't have a choice, just accept this. Well, that wasn't going to work. That wasn't going to work. Not in this case, not in many cases. The source of love comes from within, rather than when we turn around and we speak. I mean, look about if we think about, being in love, are you in love? Are you in love? In love is not coming from inside. In love means you need something outside of you to be in love, right? Am I right?
Yes.
So, but when love is stemming from the inside, okay, that is a beautiful place to be. To be loved. To be loved by what? Something on the outside of you. To be loved is something outside of you. To be in love is also something outside of you. But acceptance requires for love to be within inside of you, and then working from the inside and accepting what is. And it's a very subtle difference, a very, very subtle difference, right?
And it's also it requires a lot of courage. I mean, right now we gave some, uh, I shared some simple examples, but
Yes,
imagine someone is diagnosed with certain disease, a very bad disease,
yes,
or a loved one dies, or something very bad happens to you, a trauma happens. The fact that you need to go through it, that requires a lot of courage
yes.
to accept what happened to you, because a lot of times you're going to say, why me? But I think once you accept it, the magic starts to happen. Or also you start to learn the lesson that comes with that pain as well. Before that, you're not in a condition to even listen to yourself or listen to what the universe is giving you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I totally agree. And you know what? Acceptance is also, we accept it. The reason acceptance takes a few steps is because acceptance is trying to come from that heart space.
mhm,
And as it's coming to that heart center, heart space, what it's doing at the same time is also looking back and looking at the situation, looking at this, whatever took place. And as you're doing this, you're now starting to walk in that other person's footsteps, or that situation is being analyzed. Finally, it's being analyzed, because in it, sometimes you can't see, right?
yeah.
And what happens is that there's a level of certainty. I'll tell you what I mean. So going back to our example of the horrific thing that took place in the
Mhm.
States. There was no certainty, because they've killed before, they'll kill again, and it'll just keep repeating. There's so much uncertainty in the legal system in the
Yeah.
States, there's no certainty because you can have laws and regulations, but they're easily manipulated. So there's no certainty. As soon as that there is acceptance, there's a level of certainty that comes with it. There's a certainty that things are going to change now. Everything's going to be okay now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly. I believe it's a magical stage. But how, as you asked before, how someone can get to that level of acceptance?
Well, again, acceptance requires for you to actually really take a step back, replay and witness what was taking place.
For example, let's give an example for audience. Maybe something bad happened to them, a very bad accident, a very bad event that happened to them, that maybe their life has changed from that event.
Right.
So how can they accept that?
And again, that's very personal. Again, it depends on who it is, what the situation is, and where they're at. Right. I know for myself, okay, when you're in a state of acceptance and when you're repeatedly in a state of acceptance, okay, what happens is that there are certain things that you look at, you just see them differently. Okay. For instance, for myself, I have a tendency to do self internalization of whatever's happening in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this situation or this person or this thing presenting it in why is it coming to me? Why am I observing this? When I do that, then I recognize what's happening inside of me. And some way or some form, there is something for me to learn from that. There's
Mm-hmm.
something for me to grow with. There's something for me. But then what happens is that I will distance myself. I look at it as a movie playing in front of me. I may be uncomfortable. Why am I uncomfortable? I question what is coming up inside of me. The minute that I see something, then I question what's coming up inside of me. Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it abandonment, unworthiness? What is the emotion that's coming up up in me in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I do that and I feel all that turbulence that's going inside of me. So in other words, I'll give you an example. If I'm angry, I'm ready to explode. I feel that, but I don't explode.
Mm-hmm.
And then what will happen is it'll just kind of move away from me, move out of my awareness. And the next time I'll sit there and I'll replay that whole thing in my head, just like everybody else does. You replay, you replay, you replay. So I'm replaying, guess what? I
It's
didn't
not that important.
actually, yeah, I've got a new perspective on it. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see it the way it was actually, you see?
Yeah.
I realized that I am projecting.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I
Yeah.
started to, so as soon as I started to see I'm projecting this, I'm starting to question, why am I projecting this? Why is this situation coming up? What is it that I'm feeling? And how am I going to allow for that release to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that and you do that over and over again, what happens is that you come to a place of, um, you're in a good place, in a place of acceptance, in a place where your life, your personal needs are met. So therefore, now I can switch my focus rather than me.
Mm-hmm.
I can go ahead and see, how can I make Matilda happy? How can I
Yeah.
make my husband happy? How can I make someone else happy? How can I go out there and do some service work? How can I go there and help someone who really needs my help? So the focus goes in acceptance. at some point when you're so able to accept everything that comes in life, all of a sudden you switch. The focus is no longer you, the focus is everything else. How can I help you? What can I do to help you understand this? How
That's
can I?
very, yeah, that's very interesting, Salindran. Actually, it was a week ago. I was reading Oprah's, I think, biography, and
Okay,
how she was upset with her mom,
right,
and how bad things happen, and she was never in peace with her mom till
right,
her recent years.
right,
She accepted her mom, and
right,
once she accepted her, lots of good feelings came, and she was able to have some good memories with her as well. And that was a beautiful thing, because I have friends that they have issues with their parents, and for me, I always thought about, maybe if they accept their parents the way they are, then they can work on other level, and maybe they can fix their relationship. But if you're constantly saying, oh, why I have this kind of a mother, or why I have this kind of a father, then you can never have a room to fix things, because all these bad emotions are very alive at that time. Also, um rethinking about this, and it was a beautiful moment for me. I My grandma has dementia, and I think it's beginning of Alzheimer's. So it was very difficult for my mom side of family, and for me as well. And I was feeling guilty, and I was feeling, why is she acting this way? Sometimes I would get angry, not at her but at the situation. And I was like, why? How is this possible? An amazing human being is saying these things right now. How is this possible? And I went and I saw a therapist, because for me this was a very painful scenario. And then the therapist said something very beautiful. She said, okay, she had an amazing life, 86 years old. It's amazing. She had beautiful kids. She accomplished so much in her life. What else you want from life? That's it. Let it go. And let it go and concentrate on your life. Who says you're going to live 86 years old? Who says that you're going to, when you're 86, you're not going to have a dementia and five other things on top of it? So just understand this is life, accept it as this is life. And now I'm sometimes, time to time, upset what's happening with her, but I'm in peace right now. I don't have that guilt feeling, I don't have that worry feeling, and I just feel she had her life, and now this is happening to her. This is my time that I can focus on my life and try to help her and understand her needs, instead of criticizing her and saying, why are you saying this thing, how is this possible, why doctor is not giving you the right medicine. And and I feel like if people come to that understanding, it takes time. I'm sure you're angry. I was angry. I was depressed. I was upset about it. And then realized, okay, I cannot do anything about it. I just need to accept it. Now, as many years that she's going to have, and I'm sure the dementia will be uh, stronger and stronger every year, I'm going to enjoy whatever moment I have with her. And that's it.
well, and again, what you have to look at is that if you really take a step back, is there anything else that you could possibly do anyways?
No.
You're going to have to accept it. Acceptance requires for you to step back, look at the situation, and think to yourself, are you able to have another choice here? No. So how is it that between now and whenever that day comes, how are you going to be able to look back and say, these years were not lost? And that will let you step into
Yeah.
acceptance, and then you are able to go ahead and go forward. The other thing I wanted to share with the audience, Matilda, is that acceptance, once you come to the point of acceptance, there's a real strong commitment to your health and well-being. There is actually not just for the betterment of community, of your family and friends. When you've come to a point of acceptance, you actually look after yourself better,
Yes, exactly. You
right?
start putting yourself and your needs first, and it's a beautiful moment. I think it's some people also, Celine John, I had a conversation with a friend yesterday about acceptance, and they were saying, "Oh, you know what? It's very selfish because I had this boyfriend, and he accepted the rejection or, I mean, the breakup very easily, and he didn't fought for me." But I wanted to ask you about this as well. Some people, not in only relationship, they accept things that happens to them and they don't fight differently. For example, they become okay with not having money. They become okay not having the right job, and they accept that, oh, they loved one left and they're not going to find any other love. They don't have that fire in them. Do you think is that related? Like what
Well, yeah,
happened?
to a certain degree, because the ego projects the past, whatever the past was. So if they didn't come from money, the ego is going to project that in the future you're not going to have any money, because the ego likes to project the past onto the future,
Mhm.
right? And so if the past was a negative, then what happens is the individual either A, becomes really afraid of the future,
Yeah.
or they accept the future. They accept it as their fate. And a lot of that, accepting, for instance, their financial well-being and the state that they're at, a lot of people do not understand a simple concept of there's abundance everywhere.
Yeah.
There is abundance everywhere. Who said you can't have all of that? There's a very limiting, language is such an important part of the equation. And people talk about, I want my needs met. Well, I don't want my needs met, Matilda. I want more than that. I want it
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
You see?
Exactly.
Right?
What need?
So it's like they're programmed, people are
Mm,
programmed to think that they can only have whatever they've ever had. So if they've never
yeah.
had it, they can never have it either, you see? And that's a trick of the ego. And so acceptance doesn't mean that you don't question where you're at. You
Yeah.
question where you're at, because acceptance means, okay, this is where I'm at right now. I accept this. But moving forward, it's not going to be like this, you see?
Exactly.
So it's really interesting because people do not understand that their language is affecting their choices and they're limiting themselves to where they are. And it's a really, really sad reality for many people, because they feel hard work, struggle, challenge, rolling their sleeves up and never seeing or doing anything that they really enjoy is the only way to make it in life, right?
Yeah.
And why
Exactly.
do they feel that? Why do they feel that? If you go and ask them 9 out of 10 times, they'll tell you, well, if I look at all my friends and I look at my family, I look at my parents, they had to work really hard. Or, first generation immigrants, they all have to work hard. Or you really have to go to school and you have to go to school and do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, wow. Because at the end of the day, your life is exactly what you vocalize it to be. if you, if
I
you,
want to have an easy life and a comfortable life. What
that's right. That's right.
Also, I have this. I have a friend that she's fight. I mean, she's trying to lose weight, and I'm constantly telling her, "Oh, you know what? You have to love your body. You have to accept your body. You have to." And she turns around and tells me, "Okay, Matilda, I'm fat. Do you think I'm fat?" I'm like, little bit. Maybe if you lose a little bit, it would be nicer, because I've seen her with the less kilos, and she looked much nicer, much nicer. But then she keeps saying, if I have to accept my body as it is now, how can I have the motivation to lose weight? If this
Okay.
body is okay for me now, how can I lose weight? I need to not accept it, so I can go and start working out and start, doing some changes in my daily life.
Well,
And
it's
I said,
very,
okay, I'm
I
going to
bet
cut this
you
Salindran.
there's something underneath all of that, though. You know that, and I know that. If there is somebody that needs to release some of that protective insulation that's around them,
Mm.
it's
It's
because
just that.
there's something going on inside of them.
Mm,
They need to dig that up first, because
exactly.
they'll lose weight, and they'll lose weight with a challenge and a struggle and hard work. And then guess what?
They will gain weight like this.
They'll gain it right back, because the shit that they needed to deal with is still inside of them.
Exactly.
So it really means digging inside. You want to lose weight? What's going on inside of you? Go figure that one out. Come to a place of acceptance of whatever it is you're not accepting.
Exactly. That's the key.
Right?
That's the
Right?
key. No, very true. And I realize lots of people don't even accept themselves in life. And I feel like maybe lots of people have depressions, or some anxieties, or some, I don't know, some issues later on in their life, is because they can't accept who they became or who they are. Do you think so?
Well, 100%, 100%. And it's, again, it stems from what's going on inside of you. What's going on inside of you? Is it a repeated, is it a repeated confirmation that you're getting from maybe when you were a child, and your mother or father
Mm.
was saying you're never going to be anything and you're never going to be good enough, to the point where your teachers decided to give you the same details and information, to the point where eventually you have loving friends and family who just kind of say, well, that's your fate, maybe you should, and then what happens is that individual decides, okay, I've accepted the fact that life is going to be this way.
Yeah,
Well, who said it's going to be this way? You accepted it to be that way. Why don't you change what you accepted? You have the choice to accept something different. But like
true.
any other thing that is out there, inside of you is the universe. Inside of you is the answer to everything that you go through. You don't
Meditation can
need to.
help.
And you don't need to go outside. You don't need to. Whenever something's coming up, question it.
Mm.
Question that. Why am I feeling this? Why is it that when this happens, I start to eat that? Why is it that, I think that I'm going to have to work hard all my life and just have all my needs met? Why do I think that? And when you
Exactly.
choose something different, and when you see a blue sky with the sun shining, and someone tries to tell you, no, it only rains here, something different is possible,
Hmm.
right? So acceptance is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Acceptance requires you to do absolutely nothing. Be the witness to what is happening. Just be.
Just be.
Just be.
That's very nice. Just be. And actually, it's a very easy thing to do, but I think we haven't learned that in school, or they never taught us accept things as they are, or you know.
Well, and again, times have changed. Times have changed. You know, I'll be honest with you, you know, Matilda, the greatest sages, the greatest yogis studied children. They studied children because they were the closest to perfection.
Oh,
Not an
wow.
adult. Every yoga posture, because I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, right? Every single yoga posture is a posture that they studied babies and children. Why do children walk this way? Why do children do this way? And they studied them. And that's how they came up with yoga postures. That's how they came up with breathing techniques. That's how they came up with allow the children to be children. Don't teach them that. Let them have a free thinking, free spirited mind, you know?
Thank-
And you know what we're doing is you and I in this fires of relationships, we're just putting a little bit of a spotlight on every little aspect of relationships that maybe people need to just look at. Just by you being aware and looking at them brings change.
Exactly.
Just by looking at something. When you look at something and you look at it and actually look at it, but don't see it the way you've always seen it, see it differently, all of a sudden you will change. The point of fires of relationships is just to shine a spotlight on different parts of our relationships. And so if you really truly want to just become the most perfect individual, go spend time in nature, go spend time with your pets, go spend time with children. They will teach you something.
Very nice. Now, when I'm doing yoga moves, I'm gonna analyze it to see if that's actually very true. It's like children's move. That's why you need to be very flexible.
And as you get older, you're so set in your ways. And why are you set in your ways? Because you were born, well, before you were born, you were conceived, you were in your mother's womb for 9 months. Your mother could have been living through World War I and World War II,
Yeah.
trying to survive maybe the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
You as a baby already feeling everything your mother is feeling. It made you a different human being. Now you
Exactly.
are given birth, you come into a country, you could have been given a birth in a beautiful place like Tahiti, or you could be given birth in the Middle East where the bombs are exploding every day and you don't even know if you're going to be able to give birth to this child. Or you're living 10 years in a cave. Life, life, life is something that you have to be looking at with your eyes open and accepting what is.
And enjoy it and know that you're gonna die one day. So whatever you have, as long as you have, enjoy it and live
Exactly.
the true and accept who you are, your nature. And so I don't like when people, I mean, I'm sure I've done it and lots of people have done it, you try to please other people to so they can accept you and so you can belong somewhere, you know. I think first we need to accept who we are, and everything else can, all the other doors will open up.
Okay,
So we don't have a lot of
nothing,
time.
if nothing else, if you have learned nothing in fires of relationships, nothing, if you have learned nothing since we've been doing this series for you, beautiful women, beautiful men, beautiful people out there, listen to this. Remember this. Do this to yourself. Give
Yeah.
yourself a pat on the back. You're still here. We still need you here. You're doing a great job. Do this to yourself. The other thing is do this to yourself.
Yes.
Do this to yourself because you need to comfort yourself. you need to love yourself. You need to give yourself a pat on the back because you're still here and we still need you here. Don't you check out. Don't check out on us. We need you here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
True.
anyways, on that note, my dear Matilda, if there's nothing else to really share, I'd like to let everyone know I'm Cylindrin Buller, the host of Uplifting Humans, where we honor, empower, educate, and inspire the listener with real stories and expert advice. Matilda?
And I'm the host of Coffee with Matilda, a journey to self. And we will get back to you with another episode. Ciao.
See you next week.